What is up, guys? This is Joe from Excel by Joe and Spreadsheet School DFS. In this video, I am going to check to see how does playing at home or playing on the road affect fantasy output for players. Before we get into that, I just want to make sure if you haven't subscribed, to subscribe to the channel and like the video if you like this one. And let's get right to it. So right here, I've got the 2016-2017 game logs. I know it's a little bit older, but this kind of stuff is the same every year. So, but this is just what I have handy here. We got all the players. We got their home and away, and we got their fantasy output. We're gonna go by Fanduel points. So what we're gonna do first to check, we're gonna go up to data, and then filter, and let's just check what the overall fantasy points are. Well, actually, before we get into this, what I want to do is do a running average, because we don't want to check the people who average 2 points a game, because we're never going to play them in our tournaments anyways. So first, we're going to do this formula called average if. We're going to do parentheses. And what range do we want to do? If we're on row 2, so we want to start on row 3 and copy this all the way down right to the last one. So we're checking this column, and we're checking this for this player's name. So everywhere it says A.J. Hammonds in this range, we're going to average these Fanduel points. And the range, this has to be the same. See, we go to 26.023. This has to go to 26.023. Now we press enter, and there's his running average. His average, basically year to date, as of this time. So I'm just going to put $signs right in front there, just so it anchors that number. It's not that important. And then we're just going to copy this all the way down. When I double click on it, it'll copy it for me, but it's just going to take a few seconds, because it depends how fast your Excel is, because it's calculating 23,000 formulas right here. So now we have that, but we get this little error. It says div 0. So when it doesn't find anything to average, it's going to give that error. So what we need to do is we're going to put if error. We type that in before it, and then put comma 0. So now what it's going to do, it's going to replace, see this div error, with a 0. And we want to copy that all the way down too. And that'll take just a few seconds. Okay, and now we've got this. Oops. And one last thing, I want to do copy, and then right over it, if you do paste special, it's going to get rid of all the formulas. Otherwise, what it's going to do every time we do a filter, it kind of is going to recalculate, and that's just going to slow us down a lot, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of checking. I always like to just get rid of the formulas. So we've got rid of the formulas. Now we're going to go up to data, then filter, and let's test this out. So running average, I want to look at people who are greater than 15 points. Otherwise, I mean, we're never going to play those other people in our lineups, most likely. So of all these people, if we go to Fanduel points, let me expand this here. So if we go to Fanduel points here, see there's 14,000, almost 15,000 records. The average down here is 25.24. That's of all the people, whether they're home or away. Now, if we're going to just look at road people, we're going to do this drop down, so it's only the @ sign comes up. Now, if we highlight the Fanduel points, the average is 24.66. So that's a decrease of maybe 2% or so. So when they're playing on the road, they do score a little bit less, not real noticeable, but a couple percent. I mean, that could make a difference, possibly. And at home, the 25.8. So it's a couple percent higher or lower. But then we don't know. I mean, maybe it's just the high price, the guys that score a lot of points. Maybe it's the guys that score medium or low. So let's kind of do a pivot table to check where this comes up. So I'm going to get rid of the filter. So we know roughly playing on the road you score slightly less, playing at home you score slightly more. what I'm going to do, I'm going to go up to, make this smaller again, look up to Insert Pivot Table, and it's going to highlight all the range and click New Worksheet. There. So now we've got our pivot table here. We want to sort this by running average, because this is the average that we're going to be checking, and we want to go to Fanduel points. But instead of sum, we're going to go to value field settings, and we're going to click average. And click OK. So now people who have 0 running average, they average 14 points, 0.1, and so on. But this really doesn't help us any, because, I mean, there's just so much data here to look at. We want to consolidate this into smaller ranges. So what I'm going to do, what you do, you click on a cell in the range, you right click and go to group. And it's going to automatically start in -2 because that's our lowest one. Let's just start at 0 and end at 60. And we're going to go by tens. Click OK. There. So now we have this range, and this is your average Fanduel points that they've scored. I mean, that's great, but now we want to check home and away. So let's go in here. Actually, with all these decimals, let's get rid of some of these decimal places. You can go back to value field settings. Let's change the number format to number. So we click OK, and then it's down to 2 decimals. So the last thing I want to do is this home away column. We're going to put this for the columns. There. So now, here's how they do it playing on the road. Here's how they do when it's blank, which is playing at home. This greater than 60 is not many instances of that, so I'm not really going to count that. But let's check. Let's look at the formula here. So here's the grand total, and let's just write a formula. So we're going to go D7, which is the total, divided by B7. Or actually, no, let's do reverse. We go B7 divided by D7. And then if you put this in parentheses and subtract 1, this is what our drop in playing on the road. They scored 1% less. If we highlight this as a percentage, it's 1%. Let's do it to 1.1. Now if we copy this over, actually no, I have to do this again. So it's C7 divided by D7, and then we're going to have to subtract 1. Subtracting 1 is just to show what the difference is. And if we copy this down, we'll see players that average between 10 and 20 fantasy points, they score on the road, and this is at home, because this little at just means that's just they're on the road. That's just what the sheet shows us. So it's looking like the biggest difference is over here in the people that score 40 to 50 points a game. So your higher priced guys, it's almost a 3% difference between road and home splits. So you can kind of expect, if you're deciding between, like, looking at your big men and one's at home, one's on the road, 3% isn't a lot, but that 3% sometimes is 5%, sometimes it's 10%. I mean, it's just the average. So I just hope I showed you here how you calculate through game logs. You can check these advanced stats and figure out. And this one, we just figured out how the home and road splits go. If you want to see more videos like this, check out my YouTube channel. And if you want to get really advanced and really dive into how to do this, check out my Spreadsheet School DFS. It's at spreadsheetschooldfs.com. It's a video course. I got about 6 hours of video in there right now, and we dive into this. I show you exactly how to do this and all the steps needed, along with many other items. So you should check that out. So, all right, guys, that's it. Have a great day. Thanks.